Hi everyone, I'm Ali GREYMOND. Today I wanted to talk to you about what you can do when you are having a bad day. Bad days in OCD recovery for sure will happen. Don't beat yourself up if you're having a bad day. You just need to take notice and take the necessary steps about which we will talk here. First step, don't stay by yourself. The more you allow yourself to be in a quiet room, ruminating, analyzing, trying to figure it out, the worse it's going to get, the more real and vivid it's going to get, and you will not solve anything. This is in terms of puro. In terms of physical compulsions, again, putting yourself in a position when you're not by yourself, where your physical compulsions will be limited by the situation that's going on around you, and as much as possible, again, delaying the rumination. So right now, look at it this way: you're not thinking logically, you're not thinking rationally, you're just reacting because the feelings are overwhelming. So saying, okay, you know what, I'm not going to do anything, I'm not going to do any compulsions, I'm going to delay it until a certain time. Ideally you should be refusing, but this is a video about having a bad day. So when you're having a really bad day, it's a lot of the times very hard to refuse entirely. So at least delaying it and saying, okay, if this is still bothering me in a few days, I am going to deal with it then, but I'm not going to deal with it right now the way it is. And a lot of the times, just the act of delaying will, by the time you're to that point where you want to check and all of this kind of stuff, you'll feel a lot better. So it's just refusing. I can tell you from my own experience, from the experience of my clients, the more you check, the more you start to go down this rabbit hole, the worse you feel most of the time. Because it's like, like say, for example, a classic example, if you Google something, you Google one question, you might get the response to that first original question, but you get 10 more questions as a result of that, because, well, they also said blah 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 blah, right? So it's like it just, it's overwhelming, and you shouldn't allow yourself to do that. Also, while you're checking, the anxiety goes up, and you're showing your mind that you're in fear, you're showing your mind that you're in danger. Again, going back to how OCD works, if you're telling your mind actively that you are scared, the more you tell your mind this, the more the thoughts are going to come in, because the brain is trying to protect you from any kind of danger. And if you're saying that this is dangerous, it's going to protect you in the only way it knows how, and that's by sending you more thoughts. That part of the brain doesn't understand what what the thought is, why you are afraid of it. It doesn't understand your logic. It just understands that this thought equals fear in your eyes, and that means that that's true because you've told it, right? It's looking to you to tell it what to do with the thoughts. So you taught it that this is dangerous. That means it needs to repeat it to you to make sure you are aware of all the possibilities, right? And it grabs you and just brings up more and more. So you have to choose to refuse reaction as much as possible. And I have many videos on this and saying, like, I'm done with this, I can't do this anymore, especially if you've done it so many times. Like, you know don't look at the situation under the microscope, like, what does this specific little thing mean? Look at it more broadly, like, all of these things have been pretty much the same, a little bit different, but pretty much the same over and over again. So if they've been the same over and over again, how many more times am I going to do this to myself? How many more times am I going to analyze? How many more times am I going to do a physical compulsion? You know, and saying enough is enough. I'm done. I'm not doing it. But again, in the case of a bad day, at least delaying it. So that way you're not walking through that door of reassurance, but you're also not leaving it fully closed. And that might help, emotionally speaking, to say, yes, I can come back to it if I want to, but I just can't do it right now because the anxiety is so high, and refusing, so. And I find that another thing that helps on a bad day is staying busy, so being around people and then staying busy with a task. So not no passive tasks such as watching TV, reading, laying down and thinking, sleeping, all of those are not really good. What you want to do is something active, such as, active, like if you're around the house, right? Active cleaning. If you're outside, okay, I'm gonna do this, I need to go get this and this, right? So you have active tasks, not overwhelming yourself with tasks, but just keeping yourself busy, because that will help take your mind off of it, at least to some extent. So if your mind was, you woke up, or in the, first part of the day, your mind is 100% on this. By taking yourself out, putting yourself around people, your mind will be now 70% on OCD and 30% on what's going on around you, what you are doing, which is already an improvement that gives you some, at least some breathing room to disregard, and then from that stance, maybe you can delay and get it up to, like, down to 60 rather, you know or or refuse altogether, depending on how high the anxiety was initially and how much it dropped. So those are just some of the strategies to help yourself get through a bad day. And also another thing is, you have to notice, if it's just one bad day, two, okay, but they happen. But if you're now getting into 3 days, 4 days, 5 days, and you just can't stop yourself from analyzing, at this point you have to say, wait a minute, I think I've gone too far with this. I am done. You know what I mean? At some point, I mean, one day you can kind of be a little bit lenient because things happen, but you have to look at it that, okay, wait a minute, this has been too long, and I can't go down this road, because your anxiety is already up on a bad day, right? So what's going to happen the next day? It's not like it's going to be crashing down. It's going to be trying to find new things to refocus at with that same level of anxiety now, So it's usually after you have one bad day, and not one bad thought, but that leads to one bad day, the next few days are not much better, even if, say, even if you did reassurance and you solved the thought, new ones come up, right? So you have to look at it as a whole, like this is a pattern, and OCD always works on a pattern. And for some people, like, it might be a little bit different on how it works, but usually however it works for you specifically, how many days does it usually last, how many thoughts usually come in, that's your pattern. So if what I'm saying doesn't really match up entirely with yours, that's okay. That doesn't mean anything. Doesn't mean that the thought is real. Doesn't mean that, anything, whatever, you think, right? It just means that you have your own pattern. Everybody does have their own, but it still is a pattern. So figure out what it is. When do you feel worse? Morning, afternoon, evening. Prepare for that. Prepare by staying busy, by knowing that the thoughts are going to come in. When they're going to come in, I'm going to make sure that I'm actively disregarding, right? Making a plan and then sticking with that plan throughout the day until you feel better. And understanding that this is just a period of time. It will pass. This is not forever. This thought is not the first thought you've ever had. This thought's not going to be the last thought you were going to have in terms of OCD recovery. Because as you know, in OCD recovery, things get better as you go, but it means you're going to get more thoughts. So looking at it just a period in time, it doesn't matter, and we need to keep going and we need to keep pushing and to the best of your ability, even on the bad day. Thank you so much for watching. I do daily videos. If you haven't subscribed yet, please subscribe. If you would like to do the recovery program, all the information is on youhaveocd.com. The Q&A is coming up tomorrow. So if you haven't asked a question and you would like me to answer your question, please leave it below the please ask questions video. And I usually do, if you missed the last one and you're not sure when the next one's going to be, usually I do Q&As, I would say about every at least every 2 weeks, but every week to 2 weeks I do Q&A, because usually when I do Q&A, it's like 2 or 3 videos in a row of questions and answers, just because there's so many questions that come up and I want to make sure I answer all of them. Thank you so much for watching. I'll see you with that tomorrow.